So the government has said final compensation payments over infected blood scandal victims will begin by the end of the year. There'll be further interim payouts of £210,000 with a new organisation set up to administer the scheme. Money will be paid to the estate of someone who might have died, while relatives have been told they can apply in their own right. Let's speak with Robbie Brown. We spoke with Robbie just yesterday with an extraordinary story of what happened to him. A victim of the blood scandal. You were 11, I think you told us, Robbie, at the time when this happened.
Yes, that's right, yes.
And I mean, what you told us was just a mind-blowing story, and you ended up doing your own investigation almost to prove what had happened to you. And it all started from a botched appendicitis, is that right? And I think we lost Robbie's line at precisely that point. But we got him back.
Sorry?
We got you back, Robbie. We lost you there for a second. I was just saying before the line froze, your journey...
Sorry about that.
Can you hear me okay now? I think he might be struggling to hear us. That's all right. We'll do our utmost to try and get Robbie back on. And the reason for talking to Robbie on a 2 days on the bounce was really just to find out and get his reaction to what the government have announced, this final compensation payment scheme. We do believe you're back with us loud and clear, Robbie.
Yeah, yes, a long way from London to Wiltshire.
Hey, I know. It's funny, you can talk to somebody on the moon, but not London to Wiltshire. I was just explaining before we were rudely interrupted by technology. Your story really began after a botched appendicitis. That's about right, yeah?
That's it. I had appendicitis, found out years later they'd left 3 dressings inside me, which then gave me gangrene of the stomach, gangrene of the intestine, gangrene of the liver and the kidneys. I apparently died for about 11 minutes. I was given the last rites twice, and I was given more than 100 pints of blood during all of that process.
And it was there
my weight
where
fell down to just over 3 stone.
My goodness. And that's where the problems began, of course, because this was contaminated, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Didn't know that at the time. Just round the clock forward, I'd moved out of the area. Fantastic old GP made contact with me. He said, Rob, I've been told to destroy a number of your medical records. There's one letter I think you really need to see. I can't hand it over to you, but perhaps if we meet in a coffee shop, who knows what might fall out of my bag. And he then gave me a letter that was a internal clinical note from my paediatrician to my GP. And it said, Rob has developed jaundice as a result of recent blood transfusion. The date of that 9th of September 1974, we're referring to what happened in August.
Yeah.
I then thought, if a GP has been told to destroy my records, there's got to be something bigger here.
Of course.
So I'll try and keep it very brief, but it could be a massive story. I then decided best way to get my information is not to go and ask for it, because they're going to say no. That if they were telling people to destroy my records, I'll go in the back door. I learned a skill called computer aid design on technology. So I learned that. I went from a carpenter to learning this skill. I then offered my services to the NHS many years later. Once I was good enough, they took me on. I went up and up through the ranks. I met Theresa May a couple of times. And then, lo and behold, I'd manipulated myself into a position where the trust where I was infected quite liked me. They had no idea. They called me Robbie. Real name's Robin. They didn't add 2 and 2 together. They then decided, we'll make him in charge of moving of the medical records of this hospital which I got infected in. So I thought, yeah, great, I'll do that. I was told I should just hand it to one of my subordinates. It's like, no, I want to keep this one myself. Went in there. And then I asked to redesign the medical records layout. I need to know how your process runs. They looked at it. They said, oh, we'll use your records. Oh, you haven't got any records. Bit strange. I didn't let on who I was. Some weeks later, I spoke to a different person, just an office clerk. And I said, have my records been destroyed? And she said no, because if they destroyed, there'd be a little flag to say, you know, we've destroyed them. She said, they must still be here. And then someone said, the only place they will be that doesn't show on the main computer system is if they are held within the legal department. So I then found this legal store, which actually was in a farm around about 16 miles away in a barn. It was semi-guarded, but it's quite hard to guard a barn that has no door. Mm-hmm. I went round there. I asked these people, can you look for my NHS number, look for these records? And they took me to over 950 pages of my own records that had been hidden. Wow. And in amongst there were a number of other records, and one of which was when you're given blood, there's a little tag on the bottle that says a reference number. And there was a reference number 97474 from memory. And it said, unable to confirm clarity of blood. A bit odd. And that letter was dated from the path lab, the 2nd of August, 74. Then there was 3 other letters on the same day about like this same bottle of blood. 20 days later, so the 22nd of August 74, there's a letter from the path lab saying, we tested Rob again. Yep. He has now got hepatitis.
Wow. So you're, just to cut in for
letter dated 1974.
Just to cut in for a second then, Robbie. So you're reading all of this. You've done your own detective work, which is an incredible story in itself, and you've managed to conclude by putting all this together. There's a lot of pages and a lot of references that you are one of the what's now called the blood scandal victims here. Just to bring this up to date, and we're showing some of the images of you there laid in hospital having this treatment, which at the time you had no idea was doing what it was doing. Just explain what today's announcement means for you then, the final compensation payments over this scandal. I assume you are the recipient of some of that. What difference does it make? Is this a top-up payment, or is this it now? Is this the end? The red line has been drawn?
It's massively helpful. You know, it is a lot of money. I better be a recipient, otherwise I'll come back and haunt them. The amount of money doesn't really reflect what we're going through. And I know it's very easy to say, oh, woe is me, but I'm not that kind of guy. I'm really a half full glass type person. The reality is I can't get life assurance, cannot get it at all. By extension, there's very limited mortgages we can get.
Sure.
I'm on 12 very, very strong painkillers every day. Not through the Hep C, but through the treatment to cure the Hep C.
Yeah, I hear this.
And that in its own right was massive. That's horrendous.
Quite an invasive treatment. Well, listen, Robbie, we will keep in touch. Let's, continue on this journey of chatting, just because I'm intrigued to know, whether the government are good on this, because they said they were. Rishi Sunak was very apologetic. It was a very powerful speech in the House of Commons from a Prime Minister. We heard the...
It really was.
Yeah, and we heard the judge yesterday who was absolutely damning. Truth to Power doesn't even cover it. It was an extraordinary summary of his investigation. Robbie, thank you for coming on with us again today. We will touch base again just to see that they are progressing in the way that they suggested they would. That is Robbie Brown, a victim of the blood scandal